Moving on from question 5 of the first passage of Reading Comprehension Drill Set number 6 over at lawhub.lsac.org, we come to question 6 itself, and we're going to read the question stem and highlight the subject and task up front. The stem reads, "The author's characterization of the views of labor historians as class-based most strongly suggests that such historians blank." So, characterization of the views of labor historians as class-based suggests that such historians do something. So what must be true based on this claim that they are class-based? So we're going to scroll on down if we're not already framed up, and we're going to read this paragraph in full to try to mentally predict what is being said about this class-based idea so that we can have a general understanding so that we can then find an answer choice that matches that general understanding. So whether protective labor legislation for women is just or expedient is still in dispute today, and legal scholars disagree on what criteria to use to evaluate such laws. The labor historians' class-based analyses are no more fully adequate than the liberal legal historians' benign evolutionary depiction. So we might just highlight in pink the referent here for clear reference. And then feminist historians have a major contribution to make to both the reconstruction of the historical record dealing with women and labor legislation and to broader theories of law as an instrument of social control and of social change. So we know that the author does not think that these class-based analysis, basically pitting the idea that the women, if we can recall from our upfront read and the other questions that we've done to this point, that the women were against these laws potentially, according to the feminists, because they were being subjected to male or state control. So we know that this class-based analysis by the labor historians, which if we scroll back up, and you probably don't want to do too much of this, the labor historians were attacking the feminists for being selfish because they were focused only on privileged men and privileged women, so not the overall population. So thank you for watching this MyGuru LSAT Reading Comprehension problem explanation video. If you enjoyed the tips that it contains, please consider subscribing to the channel or becoming a member for early and exclusive access to additional practice problem explanation videos using official problems over at lawhub.lsac.org. But for now, let's get back to this explanation. Starting with choice A, dismissed philosophical arguments deriving from concepts of individual liberty that ignore class. Well, we're not dismissing anything that ignores class. We're talking about these class-based analyses actually missing out on some other aspect of the distinction for these women laborers. So A just does not match what is stated in the passage at all. So goodbye to it for that reason, because we're not talking about trying to look at an argument that ignored class entirely. Then choice B tended to limit their arguments to those that can be used to promote the interest of the working classes. Well, we're talking about the interests of the working classes. So I might highlight this and leave it open. I'm like, okay, we're talking about class-based things. Realistically, we might hold on to choice B at this point. Then choice C, we're willing to equate gender and class by according women the status of a separate class within society. Well, no, the labor historians weren't actually treating women separately, so that's why the author really doesn't agree with them. So C is really an information reversal. Then choice D, relied on historical explanations that depend on the supposed class allegiance of various individuals and groups. Well, there was that class allegiance up here about the privileged women getting equal treatment with privileged men, so we'd have to leave choice D open as well. And then choice E asserted that an unjust political and economic system was responsible for the oppression suffered by the working classes. Well, again, it's not explaining what is responsible for overall oppression, so E is going to be extreme. So now when we're down to 2, you need to focus on actions and descriptions for distinct reasons to eliminate rather than just picking the more familiar terms to select. And that more familiar term is going to be working classes. So tended to limit their arguments. Are we saying that all of the labor historians' arguments are limited to those that actually promote the interests of the working class, that's actually a relatively extreme statement when we break it down, and is why we can eliminate choice B, because they don't only have arguments or evaluations of arguments that are promoting the benefits of the working class over the privileged classes, for instance. So B is absolutely extreme when we break it down, but relied on historical explanations, absolutely, that depend on the supposed class allegiance of various individuals and groups. That's everything that's happening up in this first paragraph, leaving us with our correct answer of D,